How's it going, everyone? My name is George, and today we are going to be reviewing Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange film. This came out in 2016, and it was directed by Scott Derrickson and stars Benedict Cumberbatch as the title character, Doctor Stephen Strange, as well as forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Mads Mikkelsen, Tilda Swinton, Rachel McAdams, and Benedict Wong. And this talks about is the origin story of Doctor Strange, and basically this film came out at what I consider to be an interesting time for the MCU. It was the second film in Phase 3, and it was in Phase 3 where you start to see solo movies kind of evolving in the MCU. They were becoming more like team-up movies instead of pure solo films, and I always see Doctor Strange as one of the last pure solo films, and it's kind of why I've learned to appreciate the film over time because while there is mention of the Avengers briefly, and also later on in the film they bring up how the Time Stone is an Infinity Stone, it's still contained in its own corner of the MCU. It's still focusing on telling a Doctor Strange story, on talking about the mystical arts, introducing this new world because this is where magic is coming into play in the MCU. So I really appreciate that they were able to do that. And yeah, it's kind of crazy how it's going to be almost 6 years since the first Doctor Strange film came out that we're getting Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But yeah, a lot's happened in between with Doctor Strange. And obviously, with Doctor Strange having this big impact in the MCU as of right now in the movies that he's been in, the casting is obviously important. And Benedict Cumberbatch has done such a great job as this character. And it starts with the first film, and he's great in this film. He starts off as this arrogant doctor that wants to strive for perfection, that wants to take on surgeries that he feels will be good for his reputation, good for his ego. But when he gets into this car accident and his hands are shaking, he can't use them anymore, and nothing's working. He takes this journey. He goes to see the Ancient One, and he gets more than what he bargained for. And I really like the origin story for this character. I like the build up to him becoming the sorcerer. And visually, this is one of the better films in the MCU visually, particularly when the magic stuff is happening. I think and it also looks very beautiful. Like the MCU has kind of gotten criticism in the last few movies with the visuals, the VFX effects not living up to par. But yeah, in the first Doctor Strange film, they definitely did. They did a great job with the effects in this film. So also you have Chiwetel Ejiofor. Once again, sorry if I mispronounced that name, playing the character Mordo. And even if you're not a diehard reader of Doctor Strange comics, you would know that Mordo is one of Doctor Strange's primary antagonists. But in this film, he starts off as an ally and mentor that helps get Strange to learn magic. But as the film progresses and he learns some secrets and things that make him unhappy, makes him feel betrayed, you start to see that turn. And I think they pulled that off very well. And I hope it leads into something more when Multiverse of Madness comes along, because he's also going to be in Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, for the most part, the rest of the cast is still very good. Benedict Wong provides some of the more humorous scenes in the MCU. And by the way, the MCU humor in this film, I feel like, has actually aged better, and the jokes still hold up. Like, there's some movies like Age of Ultron where the jokes start to feel stale. But then, Doctor Strange, when I see the jokes again, it still feels funny to me. It may not be the best humor, but it's still funny in my opinion. I would say the only casting choice that really kind of disappointed me, not the casting choice, but how the performance was handled, and I don't blame the actor for that. It's Mads Mikkelsen as Caecilius. Sorry if I mispronounced that name. But that's kind of how forgettable this villain is. Like, the performance is fine, but for an actor as talented as Mads Mikkelsen, who always does such a great job in these villain roles, as I previously mentioned in my Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore review, it feels like his talent was wasted. Like, had they done more with this villain, build up this villain's backstory, and he does have a backstory, but it's just not into detail as much. This is one of the shorter MCU movies, by the way. It just feels like his talent was kind of wasted, and he was just there to kind of set up, the bigger villains for Doctor Strange in the future. Like Dormammu is essentially there at the end, and I feel like they're gonna do more with Dormammu probably later on in the MCU. Who knows? And by the way, Benedict Cumberbatch voiced Dormammu, so yeah, in the Dormammu I've come to bargain, Benedict Cumberbatch is essentially bargaining with himself. But yeah, it just feels like he like Caecilius was a throwaway villain, just meant to set up more exciting villains down the road in Mordo Dormammu. So, and that kind of leads into my big concern with Doctor Strange, my problem with Doctor Strange, which is it kind of follows the MCU formula. Well, actually, it follows the MCU formula in a big way. Now, does that make it a bad movie? No, it's still a very good movie, but the formula that's been established in the MCU when it comes to particularly origin stories since the first Iron Man film, it's definitely used a lot in this film. And Caecilius is essentially like portrayed as like an anti Doctor Strange, and it that like he went to the Ancient One to learn stuff, but unlike Strange, who's using what he's learning for good, Caecilius is using it for bad. And yeah, the fight scenes between them, well, the battles between them, just aren't really that interesting. Like in fairness, there's more in their fights than there were with Iron Man versus Ironmonger, Ant Man versus Yellowjacket, and Ant Man, another MCU film that follows the Iron Man formula. But like I said, like eventually the formula gets stale, and what could have been a great movie just turns out to be a pretty good movie. And all in all, this isn't a terrible movie. It's a very good movie, but it could have been so much more. And I feel like it does get a little bit better the more I rewatch it, because essentially Strange has become a focal point in the MCU since this film. Like he's been in three big event movies in the MCU since this film, Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home, and he's been integral in each of those movies. And yeah, I've already reviewed No Way Home, but I'm gonna review Infinity War and Endgame next weekend, and Strange won't be the main focus, but we're gonna get into the things that Strange does, and these things are obviously playing a role into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So essentially, the Multiverse of Madness isn't just going to be a sequel to this movie, but a sequel to Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home, and the decisions that Strange has made in between this film and Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, I know he was in Thor Ragnarok in a cameo appearance helping Thor find his father and basically making Loki fall for 3 minutes because he thought Loki was a threat. But yeah, he's been a pretty big focal point, and this film does a very good job of setting that up. And I know I've been critical of setup films, but I don't even see this as a setup film. It's more like the beginning of Strange's arc in the MCU, and I think it's a very good start. But ultimately, the films that have come out with Strange since then have become a lot more superior. And hopefully, Multiverse of Madness with Sam Raimi at the helm, no disrespect to Scott Derrickson, but with Raimi at the helm, who says his second favorite Marvel character after Spider-Man is Doctor Strange, who has experience with comic book movies, especially Marvel movies, can take Doctor Strange's next solo adventure the next step there. But all in all, with Doctor Strange, I'm going to give it a B+. I very much enjoyed it. I think it has a very good cast, great special effects, a great origin story, but then it starts to fall into that Iron Man formula. And like I said, I just wish Mads Mikkelsen didn't feel wasted in this film. But hopefully, what they set up with Mordo pays off, not just in Multiverse of Madness, but in any other films Mordo appears in. Especially because Chiwetel Ejiofor is also a great actor, so hopefully they're not wasting him and his potential as well. But like I said, Doctor Strange is a B+ movie. It's in the middle of MCU movies for me. We've got a lot of MCU movies since then, but still a very good movie. Anyways, what you guys think about Doctor Strange? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is it your favorite origin story in the MCU? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share this with someone that's an MCU fan that loves Doctor Strange especially. And I'll see you guys real soon. Next weekend I'm going to review Infinity War and Endgame, but they're going to be on 2 different videos. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.